Hi guys, Nick here with BitGalaxis, bringing you a new video on an Asset Forge build. And in this build I have created a space station. And the purpose of the space station was to be used in my space combat prototype, so I can actually start building out a game with that. And what I had in mind when building this was creating something that had lots of objectives to get through in order to destroy it. So this is like an enemy space station, and we want to be able to disable it, or maybe commandeer it, or something else for the purpose of the game. But I didn't want it to just be something that where you're always fighting something and you just destroy it. I wanted it to be something that maybe there's stages to taking it down. And the first thing that I really focused on was just the general shape of it. And I went with something that's pretty classic, and that is just a ring. Basically, the whole shape is focused around the ring itself, which is just in Asset Forge, this hollow cylinder. And I scaled it out to 3 by 3 and made it flat by 0.5. And that's generally the shape that I used for the overall shape of it. The second thing that I wanted to focus on was, well, I want to have a shield. I want to be able to take that shield down. So I had these shield generators, and I used these geodesic spheres that I put on this column here. And I figured, well, I'll structurally connect it to the ring itself that way with a little fence post, basically. And that was the second thing that I did. The third thing that I wanted to do was add some decoration, really. And I thought, well, one thing that could be cool is to have like a piece of something that helps with that shield generation. And that is, I created these little rings here, which look good for decoration in my opinion. And I thought, these could serve as a function where we have like this shield that these help to reinforce. And one thing that I was thinking of, well, maybe if this shield, if we could either take out certain segments of this one piece at a time, or even if like the strongest part of the shield is this and you have to kind of come in from the top in order to take it out, because the shield is kind of being pulled to these, something like that, some kind of gameplay aspect where we have a way of weakening that shield bit by bit, by destroying segments of its integrity piece by piece. So that was the overall idea for that. So I put this all together and made this shield system. I also wanted to have a command center, and the command center serves a few functions, and I'm not even sure if I want to use them all yet, but that's the part of creativity, is you can kind of change things as you go. But one thing I wanted to do was have basically the command center, the actual piece where there's somebody controlling the entire station, like the general or the colonel or whatever, and then you have this like bigger part here that's for the core functions. Really, this would be serving as like to kind of give you an example. I was thinking of putting like something that looks like batteries or energy storage, and maybe highlighting that in some way in the game. So I put like a battery up here just as a placeholder. This wouldn't be like the final piece, but just to give an idea, we put the batteries here or maybe somewhere in the command center that power everything. And with the end goal being that we'll have like models of small wires or something that we put on top to we can either disable each section here piece by piece or whatnot. So having power, having shield generation, having a command center, something that bit by bit you might be able to disable one piece at a time, something like that. And then there's like a communication center. So like maybe if we took out a communication signal, we would disable disable our enemies that are flying out that have been spawned from this station. So obviously the intent also was to have a place to spawn. So these little blue boxes here are really hangars, and I would be spawning enemies out of that. Now one of the things I'll probably need to do is, which I've done before, is I'll actually probably take this model, export it to Blender, and then like cut that out and pull it back so it's like just a big hollow tube. And that's something you can do. It's actually pretty easy once you have a model built in Asset Forge. The cool thing about it is you can export it to FBX and then modify it in another program. But it's good for getting your prototype out there and getting the general shape, because as you're building in Blender, if you make a mistake or you want to just throw something out there, sometimes it takes time to just get it right. Whereas this is kind of neat because you're putting bricks out there and you're like, what, I like this, I like how this works, I don't like that. You can customize that later, but the general idea gets put out there, and that's kind of why I like using that two-step process of putting it in Asset Forge and then going back into Blender to really flesh out the details. So which I haven't done like in production yet for anything that I've made on YouTube, but it's something I have done on a few other things I've done for some other side projects that I'm not focused on for this series. So the other thing on this was I wanted to have a platform for each of these hangars. So these hangars have these, but there's some platforms for turrets. So they have a turret model that I've made in the past and I've used in my videos. And I would put the turrets on each of these platforms. So there's a platform for putting those turrets on. And generally speaking, that's pretty much all there is to it. This command center, I don't know if I mentioned this. I also thought about, well, I have a giant cruiser. It'd be kind of cool if I had a place where we could dock it. And so I took this little engine shape and made it look like there's maybe a dock that you could lock, and you would, might be able to pull one part of that dock out to dock with like a cruiser or something. But haven't really fleshed that out yet. May just end up making this kind of like a giant, maybe pulling the command center down here if that doesn't really seem like something that I'll end up doing. So anyway, and maybe you could hijack this and take control of it, and get your own cruisers and things like that. That seems pretty darn big. It's a big idea, and that may not flesh out because that's just a lot of stuff to be adding to one game, and it could take quite a long time to implement all the ideas I'm talking about already. So you don't want to make it too big if it's out of the scope of what you can do. But anyway, this was the idea I had for my Asset Forge build, and this is where I ended up going with it. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you next time.